Greetings astronauts and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. And I say welcome back because this is actually my second ever KSP video. I did one way back when it was version, I think 0.7 something? I can't remember. I mean, it was a little while ago. And they have come a long way in that time. We're up to version 1.02, and I've had, like, I got into it at the time when I put that video up, and then I gave it a break because they came out with, I think, the 8 the something versions, and because the 7 point whatever version I was playing was heavily modded, I decided to just give it a break and came back for the 8 point something versions. Again, modded the heck out of it, and when 9.0 came around with all the career mode and added a bunch of UI features for actually building your craft, again I skipped that and I thought, right, I'm just going to wait for 1.0 to come along. So we're actually now at 1.02, and it's not been an entirely smooth transition into a full-fledged game, because I mean obviously it's been a playable game for a while, but it's now out of, was it Greenlight? I can't remember, early access, whatever it was in Steam, and they've now launched it as a full game. So yeah, so this is just a straight up career mode, and I've not really done a career mode before, not the new career mode anyway. Last time I played career mode, it's what is now called science mode, where you still have a tech tree, you have to unlock stuff via science, but the full-blown career mode has funds, it has reputation points, you've still got science, you've got to fulfill contracts to get money, and it's all a bit more like work, it's a bit more intensive. So yeah, I've built a couple of craft already. I'll quickly show you what they are. There's not many. I've built a plane, which I might seriously get into planes for the first time ever, because they've given aerodynamics a serious overhaul. Planes were, like the stock aerodynamics previously were pretty, it was a bit of a bodge job. And you had mods like Ferrum Aerospace trying to improve on it, and actually improving on it quite dramatically. Ferrum Aerospace is still around, but I thought I'd just give it a go with the new stock aerodynamics and see what that's like. And it does seem to be quite improved. So this is it's a fairly basic craft. It's got a couple of science modules on it. The game now has, I don't have it on this current configuration, but there's a couple of really nice new things that were previously only, if I can find them. I don't have that much stuff unlocked as of yet. Here we go, service bay, and you can actually stick stuff in the service bay. And previously there was a mod for that, and previously there were, you know, mods for better aerodynamics and mods for other aircraft parts and mods for, like, there's a lot of stuff. I like that Squad, they look at what the modders are doing to identify the gaps in their game, and sometimes, you know, they will actually hire modders. They have done that. They've hired people to come and work for them as developers. So yeah, it's worked out really well for them, having that kind of engaged modding community, and there are some companies that really embrace that. I mean, Paradox is another one that I can think of that has maybe not quite as strongly embraced the modders. I mean, they had a bit of a go with, they brought on a team that started off as modders to do, what was it? I can't remember. One of the major mods anyway, Magna Mundi, that was it, and unfortunately that all ended in a bit of disastrous acrimony. The team that they hired basically fell out and started, like, then they made promises they couldn't deliver on, and then it all went a bit haywire. So unfortunately that had the plug pulled on it, and maybe that's made Paradox a bit shy since, but their games are still very moddable, and they are still very supportive of modders, and Squad even more so. So this has got some, these parts are new. I mean, the ability to merge stuff inside is new, which I've used a little bit on this, not too much, but I've got several cockpits because there are several different kinds of Kerbals. You get engineers, you get pilots, and you get scientists. And they can bring various things, and they also have experience, they can level up, so obviously a more experienced pilot or a scientist is going to be worth more than a totally unexperienced one. So this was the very first ship I started off with, which is literally a solid rocket booster and a little bit of a science payload, and it's got a cockpit there obviously. But What we're going to try and do today is a thing that I've never really done without MechJeb. And actually, talking of MechJeb, some of the functions have sort of gone into crew skills. Like if your pilots get good enough that you basically get what are essentially MechJeb functions, and they can do things like align to follow targets on the nav ball and do all that kind of thing. Although it's not quite as automatic as MechJeb. It's not going to compute transfer orbits for you automatically, I don't think. But it's still a nice feature. And I've been kind of reliant on MechJeb because, frankly, I'm absolutely terrible with rockets. And hopefully you will see something of why that is. So we're actually going to use Valentina's a new one of the orange suits, as they're called. One of the things they did was actually add female Kerbal models, so you can now have male and female astronauts, which is, you know, very nice, equality for all. And I actually recruited a new scientist called Data Kerman, which just amused me no end, because frankly Bill and Bob are very, very similar names, so I was always getting those mixed up. So before I start, and yes, I know what it looks like, it's that rocket from which Austin Powers film was it? I can't remember. And then they had that whole hilarious sequence with all of the euphemisms. But it looks like this because I wanted more SRBs on the bottom, but for my current upgrades, my current facility level, I can only have 30 parts, which is a limitation of the vehicle assembly building, and I can only have a craft that weighs 18 tons, which is a limitation of the launch pad. So while I would like to have more parts and more tonnage, we're going to have to try and make do with this. So I've got, I might have to change this, but I've got basically 2 command pods. I've got 2 science bays. There are 2 mystery goo containers. And actually a thing I can do, I can just squeeze one in, is a thing that I've unlocked earlier today, this morning in fact when I was playing. I can stick on, if I can find it. Now batteries we don't need just yet. We don't even have solar panels, so it's not that much use. But I can stick on a thermometer, and this will bring me up to my part count of 30. So we'll just stick that on the back of the command capsule there. So we'll save that. Just double check all the staging is correct. We actually want the rocket staging to be both in there. That's the upper stage. And I think we're good to go. Now, one useful feature of MechJeb was that it gave you Delta V stats, and the game doesn't give you that yet. But there's also, was it Kerbal Engineer, which is a very similar mod, which just gives you enhanced information, basically. It doesn't have the navigation functions of MechJeb. So we're going to give this a go, and you'll get to see exactly why I'm terrible at rockets. Now, it's actually not that difficult to understand why I'm terrible at rockets. The nav ball is, right, that's what you use. So it's the WASD keys to basically control the direction that you want your rocket to point in this mode anyway. There's also docking mode, which is used for translation, but that's a whole other thing. Like, we're not going to be doing anything with docking mode in this this particular video. So that's fixed, but you can turn the camera around, and the part where I get horribly confused is that this is if this showed a relative direction, so that it would, as I'm turning the camera around, that would turn around so I know which way is which, then that would be fine. But as it is, like, the disconnect between what I want the thing to do and the actual, like, the cardinal direction, that just throws me out completely. But I know I have done it in the past, and that's what's bugging me. I know in theory I can do this, it's just my brain is being uncooperative. So launching is a slightly different affair than it used to be. Like, everyone's had to almost relearn how to launch their craft, because the old you can't get away with the new aerodynamic model of doing the kind of gravity turns that you were doing previously. You would just spin your rocket out of control. So yeah, we'll start off with relatively low thrust with the liquid fuel engine, because obviously we've got these 2 SRBs that are just going to burn until they use up their fuel and jettison. And you can the fact that like recovered parts give you funds, well, there's a kind of a radius outside which the game then goes, well, you can't have those, you know, those parts are outside of the physics area, as it is. There's kind of a radius outside which the physics doesn't apply. The game just goes, right, that's just an object in the distance. It doesn't actually calculate the physics for it. Which is, you know, obviously they've got to do that to keep the whole thing from grinding to a halt. But it means you can't necessarily just stick parachutes on your rockets to recover them, which would be nice. But the moment that gets outside of the radius of the physics thing, it's either going to disappear or it's just going to crash to Earth. So yeah, if you were going to build like Scott Manley did an older series of videos where he did the reusable space program, and maybe he'll try that again at some point, but there are just difficulties. So there's a nice sunrise. We've actually timed this so that sunrise is just inching up the rocket. Totally unplanned, but look at that. That's quite nice. So yeah, it's rising up, and soon we shall be rising up as well. So okay, so we've got Valentina and Data, who may or may not be an android. We've got all our staging correctly, and we're just going to give this a go. So new blast effects. So we're going to inch over a bit, and this is where the difficulty rises, because what's happening on the screen and what's happening on the nav ball. Right, so I want to inch over this way a bit, I think. Just get a couple of degrees, jettison the SRBs, and whoa, okay. So I think what's happening here is something. I don't know, but trying to control it with the nav ball. Also, we want more thrust now. This is the difficulty I have, is actually trying to... oh no, don't swing back. And this is all with stability control turned on, although I think stability control gets more effective. So I'm okay at making kind of like small movements, but once things start swinging more wildly out of control, it's like, oh, we're actually descending now. That's not good. My brain just goes, nope, can't do that. So we've probably wasted too much now. Also, that's a nice feature, that the vectoring rockets that can actually vector their thrusts, you actually get a visual indication of that, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, this stage does not now have, like, we're barely like 5,000 meters. This is nothing. So I probably pitched a bit too far over now. So anyway, so this is, yeah, I don't know, like, one of my current missions, and you can actually see missions contracts, there we go. Escape the atmosphere, set a speed record, get into orbit. And orbit's the one I want to do, but frankly I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, just because, I don't know, maybe it just, my rocket is rubbish and I need a better rocket with better staging. So I'm out over the ocean. We're not even 13 kilometers up. This is a bit rubbish. So we'll revert flight, and I will go back to the vehicle assembly, and let's have a little look at the rocket and see if I can't do something about it. So, I've already gotten an upper, like, maybe ditching one of these science bays would be a good start. Maybe I'm just being too ambitious with multiple science bays. So we'll still stick the landing legs on. And if I have 3 landing legs, even though it's like the same item, it counts each one as a separate part. So that adds to the part count. So we need the heat shield, so we'll get rid of that. So that's less mass immediately. We can also potentially ditch one of those, although that will affect the aerodynamics of the craft. And also, I've just realised I've got those all ×4, so I'd better have the landing legs on ×4 as well. So otherwise it will mess up the aerodynamics. So we'll save that. And that frees up one part. Is there anything else I don't need? I can probably trim off, get rid of 2 of these. I added extra ones because obviously it was a heavier return stage, because I'm trying to get the entire return stage down rather than... Well, at the moment, my Kerbal astronauts can't go EVA, because that's another thing that you need to upgrade your facilities to go EVA once you're actually in space. At the moment, they can only go EVA once they're on the ground. So, we have reduced that. Do we want to maybe add another see, I've also got the weight limit to consider here as well. Maybe another fuel tank? And that shouldn't, I think... Oh, there we go. Fuel tanks hopefully take me over the limit. Yes, it does. 18.5 tons. But what I could do, I could either A, use a smaller fuel tank, or B, just partially fill that other fuel tank. 17.9 tons. Okay, so we'll use the smaller fuel tank. It's a little bit more fuel. And will this be any more successful? I have no idea. Now, one thing I can quickly check is center of mass, which is fairly low down. But once that stage obviously disconnects, oh, that's not too bad. It seems like the center of mass is okay. So once those drop off, it flips over. That does considerably affect the center of mass. So maybe these want to be higher up. Maybe I want it so that these have, once these drop off, they have a much less dramatic effect on the center of mass. Although I don't know what that'll do to my actual my thrust profile, if that's even a thing and not just a thing I've made up. And hopefully the rocket will also not just fall over on the launch pad, but it should be fine. At the moment, I don't even have the gantry parts, the launch struts, because those are something you need to unlock with science, and I don't have that yet. So that's saved. Let's give this another go. And fingers crossed. Now, will we get a nice dawn launch? Yes, again, because we're starting at that time of day. That was so nice seeing the sunlight creep up. But anyway, okay. So, okay. Let's put my brave pants on. And, well, I don't have to. It's Valentina and Data whose lives are at risk here. But I'm totally cheating. I'm just, like, on the hardest difficulty, you can't just go revert to launch or revert to vehicle assembly or whatever. If your Kerbals die, that's it. You just got to go hire new ones. And apparently hiring new Kerbal astronauts is, like, the more you try and hire, the cost goes a lot higher. But you can get free astronauts by doing astronaut rescue missions. So, let's give this a go. Hopefully this isn't going to overheat my main engine, and let's pitch over a bit. I'm possibly pitching over the wrong direction, and let's maybe also roll a bit so that no, see, that's doing things. No, pitch, and it has somewhat removed my my main stage, so that's something of an issue. Okay, we can fix this. Revert to vehicle assembly. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I think if we get to like the 40-minute mark and I've still not done it, I'm just going to go, screw it, and install MegCheb, and we'll come back and do another video some other day. So, yes, so, because we don't have any ullage motors, or not ullage motors, separation motors, I think we're just going to have to accept that, center of mass, that we're gonna have issues with I don't know, I didn't mean to take that off there. Right, let's hit the X so we get the double symmetry. I wonder if I can get 3 of them, although 3 of them will affect the stability, but no, I don't think we can actually afford 3 in terms of the weight that we have. So maybe about there. I mean, this is slightly further down. Actually, we'll put it that way, and hopefully when these separate they won't just make my main engines go kablooey, but you never know. Right, crew should still be saved. That's a nice little, like, previously you had to do that every single time, make sure you had the right crew set up if you went back to the vehicle assembly, but you don't have to do that anymore. It does remember. So again, we'll get launch stability, the SAS, and that's now a pilot function. That's not it used to be a function of the actual command pods, but if you don't have a pilot, if you have like a scientist or an engineer, you don't have that available from the very beginning. So yes, it can make, like, the very first flights you make, it has to be with a pilot really, because otherwise you're doing it totally wrong. So again, we are gonna look at the nav ball and try not to look at the actual rocket, because that will just confuse me. It's like, maybe the trick is literally only look at the nav ball and don't look at the rocket. And okay, clean separation. Get a bit more thrust going. Okay. Ooh. vector a little bit more over. And I have no idea if this is a good way to be, like, we'll actually have that information panel open. So liquid fuel seems to be doing okay. We had a nice bit of thrust, 10,000 meters. We're doing a lot better than last time. No somersaulting. And if I can just, I can just not screw things up and go into wild gyrations. Maybe this will be it. I don't know. We're doing all right. 15k. Although we're nearly out of fuel on this stage, and there's not a lot of fuel on the next stage, although I did add more. So we're about to lose this stage. Ooh, there we go. Immediately fire it off. Maybe this is way too ambitious. Maybe I should just have, like, ditch the science thing and, you know, just fully have a thing that literally just gets one Kerbal astronaut into space. Maybe I'm just trying to do too much with the actual parts I have available. As you can see, my speed. So that's one contract achieved, and that's worth money and it's worth science. So I'm all right. Oh well, we're out of we're on a suborbital hop now. I've actually done this before. We'd need more fuel to basically, like, turn this into an orbit. Now the apoapsis is actually above the I think 70 kilometers in game, the point where you actually need to, or is it apoapsis? I never know. But the yeah, you need fuel to basically burn at this point, and then that turns your suborbital hop into an actual orbit. But that's not what is going to happen in this case. However, I think what we'll do is we'll time accelerate. We'll actually ditch this stage, I guess. Whoop. And we've got another contract. So this has still been worthwhile. I've actually, let's see, 2 contracts. That's going to be worth funds, and it's going to be worth a bit of science if I get some science done. So I can observe the mystery goo. I can observe the materials bay. I'll keep that data. I can log the temperature. Keep data. So this is all space in space near Kerbal. I can't transmit crew reports, but because I've got a, I can have my scientist do a crew report. Keep data, and then I can have Valentina go on EVA. Except no, I can't, because, like I said, and like I forgot, you can't do that with your initial. No, that's going to be the same crew report. So. Yeah, we're going to time accelerate a little bit here, and hopefully not too much, because time warping can have very nasty effects. So let's go down a bit. Now, I think we are... I'm just going to use it to get a bit closer to the ground. Well, obviously, we don't want to deploy... Like, it used to be you could just deploy... You could be in orbit, you deploy your parachutes, and then you would just be quite safe once you got back to the ground. But it doesn't work like that anymore. So falling down below 40 clicks. Quite a velocity we've got here, so we're going to see some plasma effects. And it used to be, I mean, the effects have always been there, but the actual consequences didn't matter. But now you really do have to have one of these things, a heat shield. And the heat shield will actually, like, we might be able to see as we come down, but the heat shield goes through stages of wear, as it were. So I wonder if we can do... No, that's, we're back, well back within the atmosphere now, flying over Kerbin's water. So, whoa! Deceleration shock. See the atmospheric effects there. And again, all these, the visual effects have been there for a long time, but now they actually mean something. So you can disintegrate your craft at, like, if I popped out the parachutes at that, the actual it would probably wreck something quite badly. The deceleration effects would be quite nasty. So if I turn off stability, it will naturally, like, the aerodynamics will take over. And if I hit F12, you can actually, just by hitting F12, you can see the aerodynamic forces that are on affecting your craft. And that's very useful for planes as well, because you can see what your various lifting surfaces are doing, whatever. So, final stage, get the parachutes and woohoo! That deceleration. Bit of a rough ride. We'll try and at least get the capsule the right way up when it plonks down into the ocean. And if I use the stability, we can at least keep it pointed the right way up as it floats gently down. Now this last bit of descent can take a little while, so again we're going to use time warp. But it's, I think, as far as I know, it's still quite important to turn off time warp before you actually hit the surface, because otherwise nasty effects can happen. So 80, 70, 60, whoa, 50 meters, 40. But if you just let it go down in real time, it can take an awfully long time just to float down that last little bit. So there we are, gentle splashdown. And this would be the point where, if I had an engineer with enough skill, you could actually repack the parachutes, and that could be quite useful. You might have noticed my plane had parachutes, and that was a Scott Manley recommendation that if you're terrible at landings, you can literally just stick some parachutes on your plane and float down to a landing. So this wasn't a total waste of time. We got 56 science, and that means I can get more parts. And as you can see, these are all the things that we recovered. So these are, like, it costs money to launch your rocket, to build the rocket, to launch the rocket, but you can get part of those funds recovered. So of the, what was it, 10, 12,000 it costs to build that rocket, I actually got, and obviously, you know, the stages that we ditched we don't get back, but I've got something like half the money back off that rocket. Now unfortunately I don't get any XP on either. I've not quite figured out the mechanics for getting crew XP yet. I think it's once you get various milestones, it gives you extra things to do. So we now have a whole bunch of new contracts available. I still haven't managed orbiting Kerbin yet, and orbiting Kerbin will involve getting this other contract as well, which is getting up to orbital speeds basically. But I can potentially take a couple more of these, and they are both on and off Kerbin, and some of them are very, very useful indeed. Tourist contracts are a new thing. Like, tourists want to go places, and if you can take them places, you can get basically funds for doing so. I don't think you get any science, but you do get reputation. So there's also things like test parts, gather science. There's a whole bunch of these. I think they are mostly test parts or gather science. But we won't take any more of those just yet. We will go back and see what our hard-earned science can get us. So we've got enough for one of these groups, which costs 45 science, or possibly... No, we don't. We don't have quite enough. I was thinking maybe we could get things like battery packs and PV panels, but sadly no. And these are all 90 science, aren't they? There's no... I'm not sure if it was previously... Maybe I'm just imagining it, but I think there was some variation in cost, but there doesn't seem to be. So I can get general construction, and these are, by the way, I think these are the old... Like, there's a couple of mod files sitting around in my Steam directory. The KSP, like my logged hours on KSP is about 60 hours on Steam, but that's nothing like the amount of actual hours I've played, because I basically, what you can do with KSP is you just copy the folder from the Steam directory. Hey presto, you've got a working copy of KSP, and then you can mod to your heart's content without like, if a new version of KSP comes out, it's not going to screw your current playthrough because you've got it in a whole separate folder. So we can either have better engines, more engines, bigger fuel tank, or I can have struts, structural fuselage, not that interesting, different decoupler, a nose cone, and the launch strut things. But I think we're going to go with this because bigger fuel tank is going to be useful because it means fewer parts, so it helps my part count. Radial engines are not that useful, but that might actually be a decent upper stage engine, so we're going to go with that, which means these other groups are unlocked eventually at some point when I have enough science. But I don't have enough science for anything else right now, so back to the drawing board. We'll have another quick bash at this. We'll have one more launch, and if this doesn't work, then I think we'll wrap the video up there. And I don't know, maybe I will keep trying it. Maybe I won't immediately go back to MechJeb, but yeah, it's just that visual disconnect. It gets me every time. So we'll get rid of those. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of those, and we'll use fuel tanks. Now, what's the weight of these? 2.25. So it's basically, the weight is exactly double, the amount of fuel carried is exactly double. So you don't gain anything in terms of the mass. Where you do win out is the parts count, and you can fit more things potentially on. So I can have maybe 2 of those. bearing in mind I still need to maybe fit on some thrusters. Now, oh, that's quite neat. It leaves them out to the side. I don't know if that's a new thing. So, will it let me put on the SRBs and also center of mass? We'll turn that on. And we'll see. And now, we had them about there, so it wasn't affecting it too dramatically when I let them go. But it was also not too high up that it was knocking off my engine, which is something a problem. So, back up 17.9 tons. And my parts count is down, which is good. Fewer parts also means that the engine, the actual game engine, has less computing to do, and that will potentially make your game run a bit smoother. Because if you get a craft with hundreds of parts, I mean, if you watched Scott Manley's Interstellar? No, that's the film. What was it called? I can't remember, but his most recent long series, and it involved a mod pack that has a lot of complicated bits, and some of the bigger, more complicated craft, well, you could see his computer really chugging away, trying to handle all the calculations involved. So, do I want to just ditch that, and can I, with the weight count, get just one of those tanks? No, that puts me over by 5 tons, so that's not an option. What I could do is maybe use, now what other engines do I have? Now the radial engines are weight wise, I probably don't want those. I'm not sure how efficient they are. Like, there's various things related to the engines, and these are probably better engines for once you're actually in space, but they're also quite useful in that you can mount them radially, and that can be quite space efficient. Like, you can end up with shorter rockets because you've got these radial engines sticking out, although obviously that then affects your aerodynamics. But of the engines I've got, thrust 14, so that's more of an orbital engine. We don't really want the LV909, so we probably want to stick with the LVT, although am I more wanting, I don't know which one's more efficient basically. Possibly that one, so we might stick with that one. We could put the more powerful engine on this stage though. See how that actually affects things. That might just give us a bit of extra, I don't know, the bit of extra oomph, maybe? So, weight 17.7, and that's actually a lighter engine, so that's fine. And inline reaction might be, we don't think we need one of those, but it's basically like a flywheel, and you can use it to, even if you don't have RCS thrusters, which obviously I don't have unlocked yet, you can basically use flywheels to control the craft, and it's a little bit like the way it's implemented in the game, it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's fine. So I don't think there's anything I need there, although I could put nose cones on these to basically like increase the make it more aerodynamic, and therefore maybe slightly improve fuel efficiency. Maybe. We'll give it a go. It does also slightly improve the cost and weight, but not that much. So, should I just ditch the science stage entirely? I mean, is that just too ambitious? Or maybe I just want to ditch the second pod. Maybe that's what I should do. So we'll take that off. We'll actually take out the second pod. And we'll simplify. I think maybe... Oh, no, the game's slightly freaked out, and I don't know why. Do I have to... Okay, it's acting as though... because of all my clicking before, I had actually changed the root part to the part I just got rid of. So, yeah, that's the thing I meant to do. So let's actually go root, and then that changed... Oh, that one to the root part? Maybe? No, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. I've done a thing! and I don't know what I've done. Right, let's just recreate the thing, because it'll take all of 3 seconds. So put the parachute on there. We've got one science bay, and well, actually, like, that always bugs me, that slight gap between the modules. So I can go offset. In fact, we're going to go offset with that one. We'll move that. Oh, okay, you can't move it that far up. The clipping looks a bit weird. Actually, no, we could just have it like that. That's fine. So that's okay. We want science. We do want a mystery goo container because that gives us science. And we do want the, not the comm panel, we don't need that. We do want the thermometer, although I've put 2 on and I didn't mean to. So let's just plonk on the 1. Right, part counts is okay, weight is okay. We're actually a slightly lighter machine now. And again, we'll offset this slightly inwards, so in theory that makes the aerodynamics better. Okay, we'll make sure we've got... we'll stick with Valentina. I'm trying to stick with 1 pilot at the moment so that 1 pilot is getting a bit more experience when I do these things. So, I've stripped it down. I've taken out the second capsule. We've got a bit less of a science payload, but we should still be okay. The weight is slightly less. We've got a slightly more powerful main stage engine. Will this be enough? I have no idea. Let's have a go. And if this doesn't work, as I said, I think we'll just call it a video there. So, entirely different time of day. It's pity there's not like a clock, but you can pretty much, like, you can go out and see that, yeah, we're just on the edge of night here. And it's actually rather a nice effect. I quite like that. So, engage stability. I hope you've got your I don't even know, Valentina. Just make sure you've got your seatbelt on. Okay. Oh, the staging's slightly messed up, but that's fine. So that is those. That's that, and that, and that. And this visualization's quite nice as well. That's quite new. They used to have to do a bit of guesswork to guess what was going where. But anyway, right. So we're going to heel over. And because I don't have, whoa, the vector thrust, that's a little bit harder than it used to be. No, rocket, what are you doing? Rocket, rocket, no, rocket, stop it. No, no, why are you doing, oh, for goodness sake. This is probably because I don't have the vectored engine. That's the advantage of having the vectored engine. And the only, like, control I've got trying to, you know, stop this spinning is the flywheel that comes in the cockpit, which is not providing nearly enough force. So, no, we can't use that engine. At least not with my level of skills. I need the vectored thrust because trying to do it otherwise is not really an option. No. The other thing I could try, actually, is... Oh, it's a possibility. It might put me over the weight limit, though. We'll quickly give it a go, but I might be able to actually have 2, essentially liquid fuel drop tanks. Although, actually, that might be less efficient in terms of, like, I don't have fuel lines at the moment, so I can't do that kind of asparagus staging, as it's called. It might still be more fuel efficient, though. We'll give this a quick go, and we'll see in just a second if this is going to work or not. So, I've slightly reconfigured things, as you can see. I've had to juggle the carts count, or even the parts count, quite carefully. Oh my word. So, yeah, I'm trying out something a bit novel. To save weight, I've actually used jet engines, and I'm going to try jet engines because you can just need liquid fuel for those. And it might give me enough thrust to get me quite, you know, reasonably far up. I don't know. I mean, it'll be a much slower initial ascent than the actual the solid rocket boosters, of course, but maybe this will be more fuel efficient. Maybe, I don't know. So we're going to try this. We're going to throttle up to about 2/3, and they should be giving me like, they take a little while to spool up, and unfortunately, of course, the throttle control for both is the same, so I can't have those at max throttle and the other engine not be max throttle. But anyway, let's start dipping over a bit, and you'll be able to see the fuel on these. Like, I will ditch these. These will run out of air long before they run out of fuel. So I will have to ditch them long before that point. Now, if I had fuel lines, I could cross-connect these and the fuel would go into the centre tanks, and it would be a much more efficient setup. But as it is, I think my rocket engine's going to run out of fuel before these do. So, I don't know. Maybe I should have staging where I just have these as the initial ascent stage, and then... I'm going to have to go away and think about this. I don't think this is going to do the trick, but... I don't know. I feel like we're vaguely getting in the direction of... Like, I probably should just be trying for a much smaller craft and a much less complicated craft, but hey, this is me. So I'll actually throttle up. We're now just on jet engines alone, but that's not enough thrust. So you'd need a lot of these. So I don't know. I don't think this is gonna work somehow. No, they've just flamed out. Not enough air. So what's our altitude? Not very high. We'll actually go down to about 2/3. Get a slightly longer burn. We're still accelerating. Just as long as we're still accelerating, actually. There we go. Well, maybe 20 kilometers. I should probably be a little bit further over. What's our apoapsis? 26, 27. Oh, I feel like we should be trying to... Whoa, gain more altitude. No, wrong way, wrong way. See, this is the thing, I overcompensate. With my rocket decides, no, wait, what? Shut up, brain. I'm trying to rockets. Stop distracting me. And we're out of fuel. So, the answer is a resounding no. That design did not work, but maybe I could do a very slow kind of jet engine initial stage, which would be much more fuel efficient. I could actually use those smaller tanks, and those would give me enough fuel, I suspect. But anyway, that's for another video. If I do another video, I might possibly. But KSP 1.0, I mean, I think it's worth checking out. It's actually a lot of fun. If you've got any interest in space at all, even if you don't, it's a nice little sandbox game. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to see and do, and you don't even have to do this, the career mode, to get all the contracts. You can just derp around in sandbox mode and build whatever the heck you like. And games like that are a lot of fun. I mean, Besiege is another recent one that's used that exact same formula, although in a different format. But it's that style thing. You build stuff, you have fun, you just let your imagination run riot, and then once you've really you know, you feel like you've got grips with it, then you throw a lot of mods at it. It's like Skyrim. You throw the mods at it, and suddenly it becomes even more of a fun experience. So, yeah, I'm rubbish at rockets apparently, but if you enjoyed this video all the same, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.